this is Cathynnan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do. Well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. After the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant women to be using each herb. And apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. This will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. Basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's Herbal ABC's basically going to look like. Oh yeah. So it's actually really windy and wild and woolly out there today. So not brilliant light. I think I'm going to get myself a couple of decent lamps, because it's not going to get any better as winter comes along. And this is like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Mind you, it is pouring rain. It's not completely typical. Okay. Oh, I don't think I've got my first. Just check what I've got here. This is the first one of my Juniper. I'll be with you. Just it's not worth turning myself off just for this little thing. Oh yeah, here we are. So yes, the very first thing, as usual. Oh, we're on J for Juniper. J is for Juniper with Cathynan Herbal. And the first thing, as usual, we'll go into is what you have to be aware of. So if you're using Juniper medicinally, it's important to take a break from it every 2 weeks. Or risk problems like diarrhea, stomachache, kidney, urine or heart problems. So it is important to take a break. However, you know, if you're using juniper at all medicinally, which we will be, this what this is about, using it medicinally. So this doesn't apply so much to the berries, which could almost be regarded as food, but even so, just be a bit wary, you know, don't get into the habit of eating juniper all the time. I mean, my faith is such as it's different if you're drying them or using them as a tincture. But if you're just using them fresh, you're not going to go too mad if you use things when they're only in season. But the juniper berries, I'm not sure how long they last. I know they take quite a long while to ripen. I'm not sure how long they last. So I don't know whether that would be good advice to follow, particularly for juniper. Having given you that advice, I'm now telling you that maybe don't take that advice. But anyway, just be aware that if you do overdo it with juniper, your first port of call would be, if you're getting diarrhea, stop. Or if you're getting stomachaches, stop. So yeah, don't use this herb medicinally while you're pregnant. And the essential oil can be used in massage or in a bath, but as always with the essential oils, do not ingest it. And it could possibly irritate your skin as well, so it shouldn't be used undiluted. I love juniper essential oil. It's one of my staples, for various reasons, which I'll go into as we go on. Okay, to prepare juniper, you can use the berries and the needles, that's these leaves, the bark, the wood and the root of juniper. The berries make a good tincture. But so does the other parts, and I'm not saying the other parts don't, but the berries are particularly good for tincture. The recipe here calls for 75% alcohol, but I'd be tempted to experiment with a good quality gin, just because that's what gin's made of. I think, you know, if you can't make a tincture with gin, it's a sad day. And I've normally used 40%. Now I don't know. My knowledge as far as using alcohol like this is concerned is lacking, and I keep trying to look things up, and I keep getting obstacles in my way of trying to educate myself according to this alcohol thing. So this one's saying 75% alcohol. I know that the alcohol I used for my art is 99%, and that's a rubbing alcohol that you can use in a tincture that you would be able to use it in a tincture that you were going to put on your skin only. But I'm not terribly sure about using something that's 75% alcohol for something that you're going to ingest. However, these recipes tell you that this is possible. So I need someone who knows a little bit more than me particularly about tincture making. I've got a couple of people I can ask actually, but if anybody does know, please put it in the comments. I do keep saying this is supposed to be a two-way thing, and I love it that a lot of you are watching, but it'd be great if you started asking some pertinent questions, because then we can go into things in more detail. Okay. So yeah, so that's the tincture, and they're saying use 1 part of berries to 5 parts of gin. I mean, that's not going to do you any harm. Whether it'll do you as much good as it should in this mixture, 1 part berries, 5 parts gin, and with a 40%, or as most of them are, 37.5% gin. whether the medicinal properties of the juniper berries will be extracted in that time, I don't know. Nice experiment. I'll give it a go. And medicinally, it's recommended to take 5 to 30 drops 3 times a day. And I would adjust this according to body mass index. You know, if you're a massive person, you can take that up to 30 drops. And if you're a tiny person, especially a tiny young person, you would go down to the 5 drops. And make sure you dilute it in a good old cup of water. Trying to give my granddaughters anything diluted in water, it has to be so diluted, because if they can even sense that there's anything in there, they'll refuse it. The older one's better now. The 11-year-old is quite stoic about taking her echinacea, whatever, when she needs to. The younger one's still not. Okay, so 2 kinds of tea are possible with Juniper, and the first one is a decoction. So you use 1 teaspoon of the ground needles, the leaves, to 6 ounces or 177 millilitres of boiling water in a covered pot for 15 minutes. I would at least double these amounts to make it worth your trouble. And you can always keep the resulting decoction in you know, in a pot for later, to be heated up later. And the second, if you need it heated up, that is. And the second tea is 25 grams of the herb to 1300 mils of water. You boil it for 30 minutes and then steep it overnight. I'm going to try these exact measurements, but I will say that, like food recipes, once you know what these amounts look like in practice, you'll be able to do be a bit more casual about your amounts, really. You can also dry and then powder the whole plant. And for food, you can crumble the berries or dice new needles to put in your food. And juniper can also be used in sweat baths and saunas, which I would imagine would be lovely. I love the smell of juniper. Okay, so the first actions we're going to talk about. Oh, I'm going to come back. I'll come back and do the actions. I don't want to go over my time. Okay, here we go. So the actions. So the first tea, the decoction, can be used to heal the upper respiratory tract, the nose, throat and sinuses. And it's also helpful with food poisoning. You can drink it as you need to. And a stronger version of this tea, made with a higher herb to water ratio, is a good steriliser for brewing equipment or cooking utensils like jam jars, etc., if you're making jam, and a good hand wash or counter wipe. So really, these pernickety little instructions for making the tea, don't think you need to take them that seriously. You know, they're saying you can drink this tea as you need to, so it's not going to hurt if it's a little bit stronger than they say. Unless, of course, you fall into one of the categories that does have to be careful. You know, if you're pregnant, it's not a good idea to mess about with these things. And you wouldn't experiment on your children, but most of us who've been here 30 years or more, we're not going to kill ourselves with a cup of juniper tea that's a little bit too strong. But, you know, if you're a particularly sensitive constitution, of course, take the measurements, you know, the ingredients, the recipe seriously. And T2 is a valuable wound wash to prevent or cure infection. So that one definitely, it's nothing's going to hurt you here, and it could do an awful lot of good. Okay. So you can simply eat 5 berries a day for 2 weeks to heal gastric problems, and then, as we said, give it a rest. The powder is effective on wounds, so similar to this tea, you can also use the powder on wounds. Used in food, juniper adds flavour and kills bacteria, so it's good for stopping stuff going off. And also, of course, it's medicinally antibacterial. So the same thing that stopped your food going off is going to stop you suffering from bacteria. It's antimicrobial, it's antiseptic, it's antifungal, it's carminative, so it's good for your wind. It's anticatarrhal, especially against Streptococcus aureus, strep throat, pseudomonas. These diseases are nasty, and this is exactly why I've included juniper here. I'm not a massive expert on juniper, but I'm becoming one because I'm seeing how amazing it is. Okay, so Streptococcus aureus, which is strep throat, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which is a nasty bacteria resistant to almost everything. Stagella dysentery, associated with dysentery, colitis, malnutrition, and rectal prolapse. Escherichia coli, which is E. coli that we know it as. Candida albicans is a nasty fungus that forms in your mouth, throat, your vagina, your rectum, your armpits, your groin, under your breasts, and in babies wherever their nappy goes, their genitals, their bum, their thighs. So also Salmonella spp comes from contaminated food and water, poor hygiene, improperly handled food, raw meat, seafood and eggs. Juniper can help to sort that out and prevent that. So these last bacteria alone are testament to the importance of juniper. Can't overstate how wonderful this herb is, and what, how much sense it makes is to make this tea and use it as a counter wipe. I don't know whether you're nasty Mr. Muscles or whatever you use on your counter have these qualities. Kind of doubt it. But even if they do, they probably do it at the expense of killing loads of either harmless or bacteria that are actually good for you as well. So, it's also a urinary antiseptic, a stimulant, a diuretic, so you're going to wee out the toxins. It's a tonic for your digestive system and an emmenagogue, which just means it stimulates the blood flow in menstruation. Good one for the teenage girls. It can be used externally to kill parasites. It is sudorific, which means it causes sweating and again releasing toxins. It's quite possibly anti-diabetic. It's hugely purifying and cleansing and prevents decay. As we've seen with some of these horrible diseases above, juniper can help with some of the bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics. In particular, this has been found with Staphylococcus aureus. I would definitely prefer to go to the herb if I had to deal with any of these bacteria. Although the essential oil can also help a lot. Juniper essential oil is amazing, especially in prevention. It could be that if you've got the aroma of juniper up your nose or in your throat, this stuff won't even get in. You're locking the gate for a lot of these nasty bacteria by having juniper around on your counters and on your hanky maybe. Yeah, and you know, of course, if you get to the point where you think you've got E. coli, you're going to be consulting a professional, of course. But yeah, juniper is this amazing preventative, and it can't be understated. It's so much better to not allow these bacteria in the first place than have to deal with them once they're in. Juniper is excellent for pain relief, especially when used as an oil for rheumatoid arthritis, and as a phytoestrogenic for amenorrhea and asthma. Amenorrhea is just the lack of menses, you know, the absence of menstruation. Okay, so that's the actions. We're going to come back with recognising, foraging and growing. Okay, so juniper is a hardy native plant that thrives all year round in a well-drained soil. Water for the first 2 or 3 weeks after planting, then stop. Never overwater your juniper. It's very easy to grow. It's native to the UK and Europe and much of the Northern Hemisphere. It thrives on chalk lowland, in rocky areas and in old native pine woodland. It is usually found as a low-growing, spreading shrub or small tree. The berries are actually fleshy cones. They're not real berries. They can be harvested when they turn dark purple, often at about 18 months. And I can vouch for them, they taste quite nice, but you wouldn't want to eat, and that's the thing, you wouldn't naturally go and eat more than 5 berries like we were recommending the dosage. 5, you wouldn't want to eat more than 5 juniper berries. Yeah, there's usually a white powdery bloom on most of the juniper berries, you'll notice, and this is a wild yeast, which can be used for home brewing. So not only is the juniper sterilising your home brewing equipment, it's providing a little bit of yeast for that brewing to take place. Common juniper is an evergreen conifer which can reach up to 30 foot or 10 metres high and may live up to 200 years. And there's quite a few of them around. You know, they thrive in these particular, the chalk lowland, the rocky areas and the old native pine woods. But they do pretty well in lots of places. I've seen them on the roadside. And wonderful indigenous plant that isn't gonna have too much trouble, as long as you don't overwater. It'll thrive. So it has a green brown bark, which I can't often not read my writing. I can't. Which something with age. Peels. Sorry. So it's got green brown bark that peels with age, and it's got reddish brown twigs which are ridged. The needle-like leaves curve slightly to a sharp prickly point, and that's why they're known as needles, and they grow in threes around the twigs. The needles have a single pale band on the upper side and are grey-green underneath. Male and female structures grow on separate trees. So I'm guessing if you wanted to grow them yourself, you would have to have both trees. The males are small, yellow and globular and grow in axils at the top of the twigs, whereas the green female structures are pollinated by the wind and develop into these fleshy purple aromatic berry-like cones after about 18 months. So quite a slow ripening period. Okay, we're going to go on next to the permaculture. Yes, the permaculture of juniper. So firstly, juniper's medicinal properties would justify its place from a perspective of permaculture anyway. Anything that you can use to that extent in your household and in your medicine cabinet justifies its place, especially if it's native, doesn't require massive help to grow. So it's already earned its place in my eyes before we even start looking at what it's actually doing for the garden and the wildlife. So juniper also provides, I'm going to say Jupiter instead of juniper all the time because I'm an astrologer, so Jupiter's always high, and I'm also Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, so Jupiter's always in my brain. So I will say Jupiter when I mean juniper, so excuse me. So juniper also provides dense cover for nesting birds such as goldcrests, firecrests and black grouse. It provides food for the caterpillars of many moths, including the juniper carpet moth, the juniper pug and the chestnut-coloured carpet moth. It also provides food for many birds such as the fieldfare, the song thrush and the mistle thrush, and the ring ouzel. Jupiter is a great hedge plant or windbreak because of its density, and it's also precious because of its indigenous status and its drought tolerance. So it's tough. You're not gonna kill a juniper tree that easily. Juniper is valuable for its wood, which can be used for timber, tools, crafts, firewood, and particularly traditional bows were made of juniper. An unusual quality of juniper is that it can tolerate hugloan. I'm saying it hugloan because I speak Spanish. I think it might be juglone, Juglone, which is a chemical emitted by walnuts, and nothing will grow around a walnut tree. So the juniper bush or tree can be placed in between a walnut tree and the rest of your plants so that the juglone doesn't get to the rest of them because the juniper can handle it. Which makes it very useful. And just generally, a little permaculture perspective at the end here, just about why your soil is so important. Learned a very nice thing with Nim Robbins, who I'm going to mention all the time, at Cathynan Farm in Pembrokeshire. If you want to do a permaculture design certificate, diploma, she's your girl. Had the most amazing fortnight learning from her. And one of the things she showed us in trying to tell us why your soil and your compost is so important. And really, if you haven't got a compost bucket in this day and age, what's the matter with you? Maybe you'll agree why I'm saying that. It sounded a bit harsh, but maybe you'll agree why I'm saying that when you've heard this. So why soil is so important. So water covers 75% of the planet. Therefore, we only have 25% land available for our needs. However, out of this 25%, 50% is unavailable to us for different reasons. For example, being already used for food, firewood, for example, or under mountains. This leaves about 12.5%. 75% of this 12.5% is too hot, too dry, too steep, or too shallow to be used. This then leaves only about 3% of the whole world, which is usable topsoil. It's been predicted that because of the degradation of soil, we're only 50 world harvests away from extinction, really. The good news is that this huge problem is quick and easy to resolve with some political will and the work and the constant pressure from ordinary little people who've seen the light. It could be quick and easy to repair. If we can initiate a change in agricultural practices, and by ramping up regeneration, we need to get away from intensive agriculture, soil erosion, deforestation, overgrazing, and inefficient or miseducated uses of land. For example, what's going on in Saudi Arabia? What is going on in Saudi Arabia? Why do you take huge swathes of desert and try to pretend they're a lush and verdant landscape? They're not. And the water alone that they're using to maintain this fantasy world is obscene. And don't even get me started on Coca-Cola. Do you see what I mean? It's the inefficient and miseducated use of our precious resources. And a move to no-till farming and polyculture rather than monoculture and reforesting, etc. All these things are things that really we should all be taking on board. You can get into huge arguments about what's going on and what people should do and all the rest of it, but to me that seems like a pretty basic understanding. You know, you don't have to be an expert to kind of work that one out, really. Okay, coming back to phytochemicals. So within the volatile, just in the volatile oil of juniper, there are 60 compounds, including myrcene and saponine and alpha-pinene, which we're going to go into, but they're only 3 amongst 60. Juniper also contains resin, diterpene acids, tannins, vitamin C and cineol. So just these 3 and these 60 compounds, you know, it would take me a year or two just studying juniper to discover all the symbiotic relationships that go on between all these compounds that make you feel better. And again, I'll reiterate my aversion to the idea of isolating one of these compounds and thinking that you can do so much in your scientific naivety, I would say. Nature knows best. It's been proved to me too many times for me to think any different. You know, I don't denigrate science. I see that science has led to some amazing discoveries. However, in medicine, we've been naive to believe that you can isolate 1 or 2 constituents of a very complicated plant symbiosis and expect wonderful results. And the side effects of nearly every pharmaceutical should be enough to tell us that. Okay, so alpha-pinene or alpha-pinene stimulates and energizes. You know, that's this pine forest smell you get from a lot of herbs. It's analgesic, which means it's like a mild painkiller. It's anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, it helps in cases of asthma and opens bronchial tubes. It helps prevent cancer. Juniper's antibacterial, partly due to the presence of alpha pinene in its essential oil. So myrcene is another constituent of Juniper's essential oil, and in essential oils generally. Most essential oils have myrcene in them. And myrcene is anti-inflammatory, anti-tumour, analgesic again, antioxidant and sedative. Saponine is also present in the essential oil of juniper. It gives juniper some of its antifungal properties and is also anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial and antioxidant. It helps produce saliva and also helps digestion. It's anti-aging and anti-cancer. It relaxes muscle spasms and cramps and relieves arthritis and lupus. Okay, cineole, cineole, aka eucalyptol, is antibacterial, anti-cancer and antifungal. Diterpene resin acids reduce plasma lipids, especially LDL cholesterol. That's low density lipid, I think. Cholesterol. It's the bad cholesterol anyway. Thus preventing cardiovascular disease. Tannins are yellowish, brownish, bitter tasting organic substance. I always think of a cup of tea. cup of English tea with a bit of milk in it. It looks very tannin-like already. And black tea is full of tannins. They are a natural regulator of microbes in the gastrointestinal tract especially. Tannins have a physiological effect. They speed up blood clotting. They reduce blood pressure. They decrease serum lipid levels. And they modulate immunoresponses. Vitamin C heals wounds and reduces scarring. It boosts collagen and immunity. It aids iron absorption and improves skin conditions. It's good for the heart. Okay, so now we're talking about the plant magic of juniper. So juniper was a symbol of the Canaanites' fertility goddess, who was called Asherah. Or if you went to Syria, she would be called Astarte. In the Old Testament, juniper was the angelic shelter for Elijah the prophet when he was needing protection from the queen Jezebel was after him. Juniper smoke is used in purification rituals in temples, and this purification cleansing theme runs right from this household tea you can make to clean your utensils and your brewing equipment and your counter, right through to this purification in rituals in temples. It's known to aid clairvoyance and to stimulate contact with other worlds, especially during the Celtic Samhain, and also for springtime cleansing and the casting out of witchcraft. So that's another kind of cleansing, detoxing yourself from, when you talk about witchcraft, it can just be gossip or bad feeling, or someone says something hurtful to you. You can just cleanse that rubbish out of your system, and juniper helps. Juniper is used for both physical and emotional. I shouldn't say both. I should say juniper is used for physical, emotional, and spiritual purification and cleansing, and it promotes authenticity and incorruptibility. And I love the smell of it. And I love the fact that I chuck a bit of juniper over myself before I go out and remind myself not to tell fibs. It's lovely. Okay, and in the tarot, juniper is represented by the Seven of Cups. That's in my Herbal tarot, which I'll show you the box when I do the reading as usual. And it's always speaking about options. The Seven of Cups is a bit too much choice, really. And it can also be talking about cooperation and teamwork. But it can be the idea that all things are possible and about the realization of thought on the creation of daily reality. So what you think happens in your world is that sort of idea. But in the reverse, this idea of too much choice, this card signifies an ability to control one's thoughts, a lack of focus or self-discipline, too many options, some of which are illusory or dangerous. And you'll see when we look at the card, some of these cups contain stuff that might on the first glance look like a good idea, but really aren't. There is a call to follow, to focus and to return to authenticity. And that's what Juniper is all about, this returning to this authenticity. Okay, so we've got two versions of the Seven of Cups here. The first one is from my trusty Herbal Tarot by Michael Tier and Candice Cantin. And the other one is The Wild Unknown Tarot, which I've used before, by Kim Krantz. Now, the Wild Unknown Tarot says nothing about Jupiter. And none of my other oracle packs or tarot packs say anything about Juniper. I told you I'd do that. Juniper. So we're relying on the Herbal Tarot, but I will also tell you what the Wild Unknown Tarot says about the Seven of Cups. And remember, the Herbal Tarot told us that it was this the options, but of course rather too many options, and you don't know which of these options are good and which are just, you know, all the glitters isn't gold, all that, and the lack of focus and the temptation and all that sort of thing, which we would see more in the Seven Cups reverse. Well, not necessarily. So some people would say, if you got this card reverse, it would mean you're seeing the error of your ways, and you're seeing that these temptations and all these options weren't necessarily the wisest thing for you to be running after. But yeah, so the Wild Unknown Tarot guidebook says about the Seven of Cups, again, illusion and deception. It's not the most welcome card. It indicates you'll face temptation in many aspects of your life, whether it's cheating for pleasure or for money. You'll soon realise you've been building a house of cards. You may feel as though you can't see clearly. You can't judge right from wrong or up from down. This is the spell of the Seven of Cups. It's best to remove yourself for a while and step back until you can see straight again. And that's the thing, you've got all these options and you feel like the world's your oyster. Of course you're going to be tempted to go the wrong way sometimes. And we all know that money and power can do that to a person. So I've shuffled these cards already. I'm just going to put them in 3 packs and pick them up again. It's quite awkward. It's quite a little table, but I do like it, so I'm sticking with it. So I'm just going to see and shuffle what comes out. So that's this Seven of Cups. I should maybe just shuffle that back in there. No, I won't, because we've got the clarification that they give us. So we'll just see if there's anything else that we ought to find out about Juniper, this purifying herb, you know, this herb that refuses to be corrupted. It can stop things going off, stop things aging and decaying. Got 2 cups. It's very nice. Whether it's relevant, I mean, it's cups. So 2 of Cups is quite often a decision to be made. 2 of Cups, highest relationship possible, meeting for 2 in harmony, sharing one's gifts with others, perfect controlled energy flow both within or without. And the reverse meanings is obsession with one idea or perspective at the expense of other opportunities. So yeah, so this decision aspect, you know, and it's again, you call on your Juniper for focus and clarity, and above all, incorruptibility while you're making these decisions. So this is connection, love, and romance. Yes, much adored 2 of Cups. You can anticipate new love heading your way, and it could be a romantic love, or it could be like the birth of a beautiful friendship. Either way, the connection between you will be pure, honest and solid. Open your heart and get ready. So you've got this purity idea as well, again from the 2 of Cups. Rather nice. So that's the heart. You see the heart that's in the 7 of Cups in our Herbal tarot, and it's, you know, I think it's pretty standard to have that heart in there. And amongst these options, you've got the option of wealth. Ooh, 2 more. So we've got 3 of Pentacles and Judgment. I'm not going to put that in the reverse because the Wild Unknown Tarot doesn't deal with reversals. And we've got the 3 of Pentacles is teamwork, determination and focus, which I was saying about when I was talking about Juniper here, about cooperation. Task ahead is, and I don't know whether I was right in saying that. I got confused and thought I was talking about the 3 of Pentacles then, so I might have talked this one up. But anyway, we'll see how it ties in. So it's teamwork, determination and focus. And the task ahead is a momentous one, usually related to your job or career. That's because of these pentacles. It's about your money. Suggests you must focus. Focus all your efforts, strategy and discipline and hard work are needed more than ever. If you become weary or overwhelmed, rely on those around you. This is a card of teamwork, so you may need the strength of others to conquer the mountain. Nice. And Judgment. It's a major arcana. And Judgment is forgiveness. The word judgment conjures up fear and guilt in many people. This card, however, concerns itself with another aspect of this word, seeking the truth. Again, this incorruptibility. No more blaming yourself or others, no more excuses. Now is the time for forgiveness and personal freedom. This card asks you to rise up and let pettiness and fear fall below you. Expand your wings and be reborn. What a relief it will be. So that's very nice. I'll just move the cards so that you can see them properly. These new ones. There we go. So you've got the 2 of Cups, the 3 of Pentacles, and the Judgment. And they're all talking about purity and focus and incorruptibility that we learn from looking at Juniper itself, and then the Juniper in the Herbal Tarot. I'm just going to do a very quick from this lovely animal oracle. Just see if there's an animal that fits into this little picture we've got going here. One came out straight away. It's a grizzly bear. power. I am indestructible. I honour my intuition and go where it leads. Love and gentleness are my real strength. I never give up. I will succeed. Very nice. Okay, so next week we're looking at kelp on Cathynan's Herbal ABC. Hope you've enjoyed this. Have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you again next week.